The new best deck is finally here. Hello guys and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode we're taking a look at Mitsurugi, which is a TCG archetype that is finally in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I think it isn't even in the OCG, I could be wrong about that, but we finally have it in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and yeah, it's insane. It is probably the best deck in the format. I say probably because, Malice still exists. And as much as the ban list did kind of neuter it, it's still very, very powerful. That being said, Mitsurugi is extremely powerful, and you can play it alongside pretty much anything. I currently am playing it with Ryzeal, because Ryzeal is just the most synergistic with it, and I will explain why, but Mitsurugi can be played alongside anything. So I'm going to quickly show you what Mitsurugi does and why it's so powerful. Starting off with the Habakiri. Habakiri just reveals itself in hand, special summons a Mitsurugi monster, and then tributes a monster you control. Notably, it doesn't have to be the monster you summon. However, all of the Mitsurugi monsters, when they are tributed and or summoned, have an effect. So, Saji is generally what you will be summoning here, which just searches out a spell trap. We also have the Kusanagi, which also allows you to add back a card from banishment or grave to your hand. So either of your Mitsurugi cards. Those are what you are going to be summoning most of the time. 99% of the time you're going to be summoning Saji because it searches out the spell trap. The spell trap that you are searching out is Ritual because it just Ritual summons a card. Well, more specifically a Mitsurugi monster. But it can do it from hand or deck, and it can use both of those summoning mechanics, as in one from hand and one from deck, each per turn. So you can summon one ritual monster from your hand, and then one ritual monster from your deck. You can do both of those. However, the materials need to be from the opposite location. Well, technically, they don't have to be. You can still use from field or hand in either situation. But if you are summoning from deck, you have to use from hand or field. If you're summoning from from hand, you can use from hand, field, or deck, which is pretty nice. And again, because of the way that the other Mitsurugi cards work, including the actual rituals themselves, if they are tributed, they search a card, which is fantastic, or add a card back. Yes, all of the rituals also have the ability, when they are tributed, to add a card back to the hand, and then, if they have been properly summoned, can special summon themselves back, meaning Murakumo can bring itself back, Habakiri can bring itself back after they have been properly summoned. Fantastic. Now, what is this in service to? This card right here, Murakumo. Murakumo says, if your opponent does a thing, they either have to hand loop themselves by discarding a card, or that effect is negated. You just negate the effect. On top of that, if this card is tributed, it brings itself back, and on special summon, it nukes the field. Now, there's a million different ways to tribute this monster, as you've seen previously, which is very, very powerful. But the most notable one is Prayers. Prayers, activate it, tribute a guy, and search and special summon. So, you can, if you tribute a monster, use both effects of Prayers, which is to add a add a Mitsurugi monster, or special summon a monster from hand or grave. You do these in sequence, so you will add a monster, and then you will special summon a monster. If you tribute, you can use both effects, which means that you can search out a guy, and then immediately special summon it. Which is pretty nice. On top of that, this is a way to get into your combo, because just being able to add a Mitsurugi monster, you can add a Habakiri, and then Habakiri can go from there, which is very, very nice. That's pretty much it in terms of what this deck aims to do. You're basically just summoning Murakumo, at least in regards to your Mitsurugi line. That being said, you can also potentially easily put a rank 4 onto the field due to Nightsword Serpent. Nightsword Serpent also allows you to just tribute it from the deck in order to special summon it, and then it's another 4, which you can use to go into the entire Ryzeal line. Alongside things like Prayers, you can actually just like tribute one of your guys and then special summon back the Saji that you used earlier in the turn, and then you have a rank 4, which can be used to go into things like Infernal Flame Banshee, or Duo Drive, or a myriad of other options available to you, which is one of the reasons why this deck is so powerful. On top of that, the other reason is because you can use King of the Feral Imps in order to use the Ryzeal monsters to get into the Mitsurugi stuff. So both engines get into the other engine, meaning basically you're never out of the woods in regards to one engine or the other, which is very, very solid and extremely powerful. And as powerful as Murakumo is, we all know how powerful Detonator is as well. So that's basically what the deck is aimed to do. We're playing 41 because I couldn't really cut a card, and yeah, that's pretty much it. As for the actual rest of the cards in the deck, we are playing, of course, the full Ryzeal package, 3 Sword, 3 Ice, the 1 Node, and the 1 Star, as well as 2 X'd. We're also playing, of course, ourselves the 1 apiece of Cross and Plugin, and 1 Bonfire. As for the Mitsurugi stuff, it's the 3 Habakiri, the 3 Prayers, and then 1 apiece of Ritual, the Murakumo, as well as Saji and Kusanagi, and then the 1 Night Sword Serpent, as previously mentioned. We're also playing 1 Mirror, which is just an additional ritual, but you have to ritual using cards from hand or field as the tribute, but you can reborn from the grave, which is the important part about that one. So we're also playing that one. And then we're also playing Great Purification, which is just a negate. So you just tribute one of your monsters and negate. Very powerful. And it is one of the reasons we're playing this is because of Maxi and Fuwa loss. It just helps to play around those a little bit more, because you can basically like get it instead of something like Ritual or something else of that nature. And then you can, summon Murakumo on, you give your opponent basically 2 draws with Murakumo and the Great Purification, and hopefully that's enough. Right. As for the rest, it's just non-engine. We're playing 3 Droll, 2 Maxi, 3 Ash, 3 Fuwa loss, and a searchable Nibiru, as well as the 2 Called by and a Crossout. And as for the extra deck, we're playing just a whole bunch of rank 4s. Most notably, we are playing the King of the Feral Imps, we're playing Dugaris, we're playing Gallant Granite to search out the Nibiru. We're also playing the 1 Duo Drive and 2 Detonator for the Ryzeal package. And then we're also playing 1 Dynamondo. It's just another thing that we can go into with our ritual monsters in order to kind of break boards, or just establish a more easily, I don't know, I guess just like a more easily usable Raigeki with the Reborn of Murakumo off of the Dynamondo. So that's pretty much it. Let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performed. Alrighty, so here we are going first, and genuinely one of the big things about this deck is how powerful it is just in general. Its end board is extremely powerful. So let's see what we can accomplish here. First and foremost, we do get Fuwa lost. There's not a whole lot that we can do about that. However, I'm going to activate the Bonfire and then immediately get met by Droll. Now, Droll is almost a death sentence for this deck. However, it's not actually a death sentence. It is powerful, but if the opponent is only doing that, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do to at least make something of a board. So there's that. Here we just happen to draw enough of the Ryzeal names to make Detonator and Starliege. So yeah, it's pretty solid. So yeah, we all know what Ryzeal does, and my opponent concedes seeing that. And hey, it's Ryzeal. It still does things, but yeah, that's one of the things of having that additional engine that can sometimes be helpful. Now, granted, Ryzeal isn't exactly the best of engines against Droll, so you could consider something else, like for example, Orchist or Fiendsmith or something of that nature to play alongside the Mitsurugi. That might be a little bit better. All right, now here we are going second, and let's see what we can accomplish. Now we do have Maxi, so there's that. My opponent's going to call it by. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Let's see what we can accomplish with the Maxi. My opponent's going to go and search out Drill Beam here. So yeah, out comes Ether Barrel. I'm going to activate the Maxi. They're going to set the Lordly Load, and then they're going to activate Lordly Load and summon out the Blue Eyes White Dragon. We draw Kusanagi, which is not exactly great here, but I mean, we still have Habakiri. So we're going to activate the Habakiri Tribute to the Saji. Saji effect is going to grab up the Ritual here, and we're going to activate the Ritual effect here. And we do have to tribute the Kusanagi here from our hand, which is not great. Now, to be fair, I think they should have just Drill Beamed here. And honestly, I think I did make a bit of a mistake by not activating Prayers. I think Prayers is technically the correct thing to do, and just hold the Ritual there. But alas, we're going to go for the Night Sword Serpent, and we're going to add back the Ritual here. And then I activate the Prayers, tributing here, and they elect to Drill Beam that, which is just not correct. But alas, we're going to add another Prayers here and reborn our Habakiri. And now we know that they don't have the Drill Beam, so we can go into the Murakumo. Murakumo effect is going to activate, and we're going to nuke the field, and then we're just going to go combat here. It's not exactly great. We don't really have much in terms of like follow-up here, but we can set the Prayers and then just pass the turn. Sadly, we just drew Plugin, which is just not very good. Anyway, we're going to elect to negate the Ether Barrel. They actually decide, no, I'm not going to discard a card, I'm just going to confirm here. But that's fine. I'm instead going to go for the Prayers here in order to negate not negate, in order to tribute the Murakumo and add some cards to the hand. Most notably, we special summon out the Kusanagi here, which adds back Ritual, so at the very least, we are good to go there. It's also Blue Eyes, so I'm fairly certain we're not going to get OTK'd here, but I do want to specifically get rid of the Ether Barrel so that they do not have access to their Drill Beam. So, yeah, Drill Beam is just like a big issue for us, so I like to do that. Anyway, they revealed that they had the Maiden in hand, and we did end up drolling them, so they can't, like, search an additional thing here, which, hey, turns out that was pretty good, because had they had the ability to normal summon the Sage there, could have done a whole bunch of damage. Alas, they didn't. But out comes 3 Blue Eyes, by the way, and then they make Seal here just to be able to walk over the Murakumo. However, they didn't read Kusanagi. Something I didn't tell you, every single one of the Mitsurugi main deck monsters has this same effect, where if another reptile monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you just tribute this card instead. So that's why keeping them on field is not a bad idea. And oftentimes what I will actually end up doing is if I get Max Seed or Fuad or something of that nature, where I kind of have to stop playing the game in quick order, I will instead just keep the guys on field. Like, for example, if a Kusanagi or a Saji or something like that just ends up on my field, and they, like, maxi me, right, just keep it on the field, don't, like, link it off, don't do anything else of that nature. At the very least, that protection is useful, and you don't give them that additional draw. Anyway, we're gonna go for the Ritual here, and at this point, the game is pretty much over. So, yeah, we're gonna summon out the Habakiri from the deck, so that we can tribute and search out with Purification, and out comes the Murakumo. They're going to activate the effect of their Imperial Dragon, but that's not how that card works, so away it goes. We still nuke the field, and we're going to Reborn again here, and at this point the opponent, I think, just disconnects, quote-unquote disconnects. Out comes the Duo Drive, and yeah, they disconnect here, so good game. No, they actually surrendered, my bad, they surrendered. Alrighty, here we are once again going second, and Fua. Yay, we love Fua. We're going to activate the effect of the Fua. It's going to resolve. Hip hip hooray. Let's see what my opponent is on. It's Ryzeal. Ryzeal actually does play into Fua pretty well, so there's that. I don't know why they normal summon the Luri. I think they forgot that they were immediately locked off of X. Oops. Anyway. Out comes Duo Drive. They're going to activate the effect of the Duo Drive. They're going to attach a guy, and then they're going to activate the Duo Drive, detaching 2, grab plugin, and Node. They're going to go for the Node here. They're going to pitch a card. They're going to special summon back a guy, use all of them to go into the Detonator, and then just attach a guy. Anyway, shuffle back 2 and draw a card. Our draws were not exactly great. I'm not going to lie. They were not great. That, however, was fantastic. We're going to start off here by normal summoning the Ice here. This kind of forces out the Cross and the Detonator, but that's fine as long as we can get rid of the Cross effect. Just kidding, I lied to you. They elected not to activate the Cross effect there, which is kind of interesting because if they give me access to X, I literally get to turn off the Cross. They just don't have access to it. So this seems very counterintuitive in my mind. However, out comes Droll, and then out comes Droll number 2. Well, crap. I guess I'm going to activate the Prayers here and still add up the Habakiri. So at the very least, we have Habakiri. But luckily for me, we do have the Murakumo. So there's that. We also did draw Mirror as well, so I'm pretty happy with this nonetheless. Anyway, they also elect to allow me to special summon the Node, or off of Node, and not pop with the Detonator. Seems like a bit of an odd choice because now I get to go Detonator here. They're going to, I'm going to attempt to attach. They are going to attempt to pop. I am going to attempt to pop the plugin, to which they will respond with plugin, targeting Node, and I am going to pop their Detonator so that they can't attach with the plugin. Yes, I lose Detonator, but I get rid of the field, and we just activate Prayers here, which means we contribute the Habakiri to summon out the Murakumo, and we were very lucky that we did end up drawing the Murakumo, even though we did get drolled, and we get to proceed to combat. For 32, set the Prayers, we have Ash Blossom in hand, the game is effectively over. However, I do fumble lethal here, so it does go on for a little bit longer than it technically should be, but alas, it's fine. They're going to attempt to draw a card, they draw into tracks, that's fine, we're just going to immediately deal with it, and alas, the game is, again, as I previously mentioned, over. Anyway, I grabbed the Habakiri here. What I should have done is grabbed something that I could special summon off of the effective Prayers, so that they could have, the Murakumo could have just searched out Habakiri. Bit of a mistake on my part. I was still learning the deck at this point. We also get to shuffle back the Mirror there as well, which is pretty nice. Anyway, we draw for turn, and at this point the game is over, but I'm gonna just go through the motions. However, I'm also lying to you, because again, as I said, I do miss lethal here. And the reason for this is because of the way that Prayers works. Prayers says, special summon a Mitsurugi monster from a hand or grave, but it cannot attack directly. I didn't know that. Now, I could have also still, in combat, activated the effect of Prayers, tributed off the Murakumo, and then Murakumo could have brought itself back and attacked directly because it brought itself back off of that effect. I'm stupid, didn't realize this. This is not me being BM, even though it is. It is technically bad manners because I did miss lethal. I just genuinely forgot that Murakumo could have just brought itself back by its own effect. So that's just on me. I'm just stupid. I just literally missed lethal here. Now you might be wondering, like, oh, well then why are you still playing the game? Because this is technically correct. This is technically the correct thing to do, is at this point make sure that I guarantee my win and don't, like, mess it up or you know, what have you. Yes, I could have just, like, oh, but what about just Great Purification? Yeah, technically I could have, but alas. Doesn't really matter. We're just gonna negate the cross with or negate with cross. They just proceed to combat and OTK themselves. My bad. I'm sorry. Not on purpose. I'm just bad at finding the lethal line there. So, oopsie poopsie. Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, this deck is still very powerful. I think its one big weakness is the fact that it does have a very strong weakness to Droll, which everyone is currently playing because of how powerful it is against Mitsurugi. So, bit of a travesty. That being said, I don't think it's terrible. I also think that it kind of has an issue of, like, not enough of powerful non-engine. And you might be like, oh, what do you mean not enough powerful non-engine? Well, Maxi is very easily outable. Same thing with Fulos, right? And so oftentimes, like Ash Blossom and Called By and stuff like that just aren't very useful in terms of non-engine. You'd much rather have more powerful non-engine. Things like additional Nibirus or additional Molcharmies or something of that nature. You just don't really have the ability to do that with the Ryzeal variant of the deck. I'm currently playing 41, and like none of these cards are cards that I would necessarily want to cut. You could argue that like you could cut Mirror, you could cut Bonfire and play like a nice clean 40 or something of that nature. But for the most part, there's enough like bricks and stuff like that that it still doesn't feel bad to play 41. But that being said, you know, it's also not the greatest in terms of having access to non-engine. And especially with the way that decks currently exist in the space of go first, auto win, go second, pray you draw an auto win card, that of Droll, Maxi, Fua, Lancia, or some combination of hand traps that auto win you the game, like a Imperm Nibiru or something else of that nature, right? So that's generally what we want to see is, you know, game-ending hand traps or that you go first. And this version, I think, I don't know, it's good. That's all I'll say. It's good. I think not having as much non-engine is a bit of a downside, but you do have a lot more engine, which means you're not as likely to die to other people's non-engine, so there's that. You could also still play Mitsurugi Pure, which, maybe I have a video on that. Anyway, that's gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.